Hello and welcome. In this video, I'll be showing you some basic examples of how you can mix data types. When you are creating certain variables or objects in JavaScript, you can mix the data type. For example, in an array, you can have an array that contains a string and also a number. So let me create a very basic variable. I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to call this variable X. I'm going to give it a value which is going to be an array. You can tell it's an array because I'm using square brackets, and I'm going to give the first value in the array. I'm going to make that a string. I'm going to call that John. So you separate each value in an array with a comma, and I'm going to make the second value in the array a number. So here I've created a basic object which is an array that has two values, which is also known as the length. So the length of this array is 2. So if I press enter, it comes undefined because I've not referenced it. So if I want to reference it, I just call it by its name, which is X, and press enter. So it tells me here that this is an array and it has two values, or length 2. And it tells you here the values, John and 0. So if I expand this now, you can see an array basically is referenced by their index. So the very first value will be index 0 and the second value with it will be index 1. So if I wanted to access, for example, this value called 7, I'll have to reference it by this index 1. And it tells you a length. That means the length of the array is 2. It's got two values. So you can see it's possible to mix data types. So I've mixed a string and a number data type inside an array object. When mixing data types, you also have to be careful because it can lead to some unexpected results. For example, when you are performing calculation, so you got to be careful not to mix a string value and a number value. So let me illustrate. So let's say I create a variable a and give it a value of, say, 7 plus 7. All right. And I create another variable. I'll call this variable b, and I'll give this a value of 7 plus 7. So I've got two variables now. If I call variable A will return a value of 14, which is 7 plus 7. If I call variable B, it will return a value of 77 because the first value is a string. So it uses this plus sign to concatenate or add the 7 to the string. So if I call the variable b now, it will return 77. So you got to be careful when you're doing calculations so as not to mix a string and a number if you don't want unexpected results. It's okay if you're expecting the values that gets returned, but if you're not expecting it, then you need to be cautious when you are mixing a number, for example, and a string. If I, for example, create another variable here, I'll call this variable c, and I'll set that to equals to, say, a string, and I'll call this hello. And I'll concatenate this. I'll add a number 7. Now, if I call this variable c I expect it to return hello 7. Alright, so that's basically how you mix variable, but you gotta be careful when you're doing calculations so you don't get unexpected results. So that's basically it for this video. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.